Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
No, I mean that's assault to tape someone to a banister.
Oh no, I'm talking about you take 4 tires off a car and off a guy's car. That was there a crime committed in any of that?
I mean, yeah, but it's a nice crime. Anyway,
I don't know.
Welcome to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast.
Oh.
This is Thursday, March 13th, I believe, episode 179. We're talking about
You're fading. You're fading
I
out.
know. I wore the wrong shirt today. Apparently, I thought it was a green screen, not a blue screen. But apparently, just an illusion.
He's zeitgeist.
So yeah, don't pay attention to me fading away. I'm not going anywhere, sadly. Anyway, we're talking about the Spurs prank on Stephon Castle yesterday. He walked out to his car, which is a Toyota Supra, by the way.
Oh.
And all 4 of his tires were missing. They were. I mean, it's just a little prank.
Okay.
I mean, you don't like it.
I don't know what to make of it. No, it's not that I don't like it. I just thought it was a veteran move that I didn't see Chris Paul or Harrison Barnes.
Well, yeah, it was
in that picture.
It was obviously them and De'Aaron that did this, and maybe not Chris Paul, but De'Aaron was asked about it. He was like, hey, he's got it pretty good. We just pull a little prank on him.
He's just driving a Toyota Supra. I mean, don't you expect him to have a better sled?
I kind of like the fact
he drives what he drives, man.
He's a humble cat and he's working his way up, but apparently somebody doesn't think he's done enough rookie chores around the room because he got the treatment last night.
I mean, I always thought it was funny. I'm one of those guys that I remember when Tim Tebow was a rookie and they made him get the Friar Tuck haircut. And so he was bald up top and just had the hair around the sides. I think that's funny, but they've gotten rid of all that in all the sports pretty much. So there's no more rookie hazing. So I guess you get a prank pulled on you every now and then. But like I said to you in the other room, I would rather be Stephon Castle where all 4 of my tires are missing than be the I think it's Jordan Tyson or someone on the Cavs whose car was filled with popcorn. One is so much easier to fix than the other.
There was the best prank I've ever seen was back in the day by the Spurs, and we were coming out of a shoot around, and Malik Rose had his Mercedes-Benz, and everybody's leaving practice, and it just catches my eye. There's this Mercedes-Benz with Oreo cookies unscrewed and literally front to back. It was a row of Oreo cookies from the back of his hood to the front of the car and to the back of the trunk to the front of the hood. It was the funniest thing ever. And then so we circled back. The guy I was working with that day had already taken off, and luckily one of the TV camera guys was there that morning. I said, please, man, I'll do anything. Can you please shoot this? Let's wait for Malik to come out.
This was before camera phones.
And it was one of the funnest pieces that ever turned out happening, or that we were able to ever spin out, in my opinion. It was good, clean fun. Turns out it was Danny Ferry and his kids must have bought a case full of Oreo cookies and unscrewed them and put them all over his car. All the little cream filling was melting on the wax of his car.
Did they eat some of the Oreos?
No, they were nowhere to be found. They got the heck out of there. And Malik was pissed, but he was very.
I think that's the worst joke. That's a waste of Oreos.
Yes,
that too. That's a crime that was committed. Okay, yeah. The waste of Oreos. Anyway, so this is one of the next 4 days, and next week, Thursday to Sunday, are 2 of my favorite 4-day stretches in the entire year because of conference tournaments and because of the NCAA tournament. So we're in the middle of what is some of the best time of the entire year when it comes to sports. We will not be getting into a lot of college basketball today, but I do love today and basically the next 3 days because I'm planted on the couch watching a lot of college basketball.
And the HBU All-Star game will be on the CW on April 6th.
Absolutely.
On the Sunday between all the games that are going on in the Dome.
Yeah, big day or big week in San Antonio.
Who's your early pick for the winner of it all?
Well, Cooper Flagg just went down with an injury, so that's going to be we're going to have to keep an eye on that one. I don't know. There's a lot of Auburn, Duke, or Houston, or the field, and something weird always happens. I kind of like Florida. They shoot the lights out and just
one
play
thing
really
that
well,
remains the same every single year is that whoever or whatever my bracket looks like,
choose the opposite.
You go the opposite, and you're going to be absolute gold.
I'm not going to be here on Monday, but I'm going to I'll make sure to get the brackets, the online bracket challenge to everybody.
I'm usually done by Friday afternoon at 11 a.m.
I'm usually done at like Thursday at 12, so it's not good.
Is the women's bracket going to get as many eyeballs as it did last year?
No, absolutely not.
I don't know if UTSA gets in somehow by some miracle.
Nationwide, no.
Although I don't think I'm still not trying to. I'm still trying to figure out how UTSA and the women's team with 4 losses. I don't care what RPI or whatever measuring
Net
stick that
rankings.
they use. Yes, the NCAA zoning, whatever it's called. I don't get it. How can you not make a national tournament when you're just outside Power 5? You won your regular season. So hopefully they get a break and they get in, because that's nonsensical if they don't get in.
Yeah, I don't know how you go 26-4 and don't get into the
No, that
NCAA
makes no
tournament.
sense on any level.
There's not 67 better teams than the UTSA women.
100%.
Anyway, let's get to the normally scheduled programming here. We're going to talk a lot of NFL and NFL free agency today. Not so much the Spurs. Keep that for Monday when Zach is hosting for me. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel News 4 Fox SA. Download, rate, review the podcast version if you're so inclined. Cowboys have been kind of wheeling and dealing this week, a little bit more than Jerry Jones wanted to let on. This is a little bit. I think this is what we kind of had in mind for selectively aggressive. They've made 5 external signings, 2 trades, not like blockbuster trades, but trades to fill some gaps. So we'll talk about all that, plus the moves that still need to be made after a surprisingly active week for the Cowboys. And we'll get into the Texans, who have really been making moves. Haven't made a lot of huge signings, but massive trades, especially along the offensive line, which has been a complete reset as they try and keep CJ Stroud off of his backside, as they didn't do last year. Plus, what these guys are now looking like they're going to be doing in the draft because of the signings that they've made in the free agency period. So we'll start with the Cowboys. Chuck, when you look at everything that they've done so far, I think they made 9 re-signings. They have 5 external signings and 2 trades so far. What do you make of what they have done thus far in the trade or in the free agency process?
For the most part, I like what they've done bringing their own guys back. They've let some guys go that I think they're going to miss. Well, I'm sure get into that a little bit later on. And then as a whole, the moves that they've made minus 1 are roster moves where they're filling in the back end of their roster. So they're getting guys on the free agency market that they're going to sign in the hopes is that they can fill in, but only if there's not somebody better in front of them.
Like building depth.
Yes. I mean, there's a reason why guys are signing for 1 year, $3 million, because they're giving up money to have a job.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if, they all these guys get rated, right? It's performance-based, age-based, everything that you are in the room, and then pretty much the whole league knows what you are at this point. You can write it down on the column, and there's a money figure right next to it. So there's a reason why these guys are on the market. Maybe they're coming back from injury. So in terms of filling out the back end of the roster, there have been some really slick moves, but as we know, there are some chasms that need to be filled here on this roster as well.
Yeah, I tweeted this out yesterday after they made the trade for Kenneth Murray, and I think it's an unpopular opinion because everyone likes to crap on the Cowboys, including me, that I think they're having quietly a very good, positive offseason. And I got into it, but I went back and forth with Walter Pasquarito a little bit on Twitter last night. I think that they've done a really good job of filling gaps and getting guys that are low risk, high reward. Kenneth Murray, one of the guys that they traded for. It's now going to be his 6th season in the league. First forward with the Chargers. He's a former first-round pick out of Oklahoma. He hasn't performed to the first-round capability, but the Cowboys have done a very good job taking first-round picks from other teams and making them shine on their own team. Look at Malik Hooker. They've done a really good job with doing that. And so if they can get some of these guys, whether it's Solomon Thomas, who's a former top 5 pick, Peyton Turner, who's a former first-round pick for the Saints. If you can get some of these guys to perform at the higher level than what they have performed at thus far, get a little bit more out of them, trust the coaching and trust that Matt Eberflus is able to get more out of them, then I think that people will look at this free agency period as a success, but you're going to have to see the see the fruits of the labor first. I think that it's been a very good free agency period thus far because they've gotten 5 guys that fill holes on 1-year deals. If they don't work, they don't work.
Yeah, I mean, as we're sitting here today, Murray, though, looks like the one guy that you could go, for sure that guy's going to start, right? He may not, based on the health of some guys that are coming back from last year's team that got banged up. But that was the one move where it's like, okay, I see you working here, Cowboys. You're trying to get a younger version of where you were at last year at that spot.
Yeah, when you lose Eric Kendricks, he might come back, he might retire. You don't know exactly what Eric Kendricks is going to do yet. And you lose DeMarvion Overshown, who is very, very likely out next year. You need depth at that position. That's why they signed Jack Sanborn, the undrafted linebacker who played for the Bears last year. Bears a lot of familiarity with Matt Eberflus. And you go out and you trade for Kenneth Murray, who hasn't been bad. He has been not good against the run. They're going to have to figure that out because Eric Kendricks is a little bit better against the run than Sanborn or than Kenneth Murray is. But it's a guy that you got for a 6th round pick, him in a 7th round pick for a 6th. It's very low risk. He is being paid $7.5 million next year, which I'm surprised that they're going to pay that, but that's a whole nother conversation. But they've made moves like him. I'm just going to go through them real quick. They've re-signed Osa Odighizuwa, which was the massive move that they needed, the $20 million a year move. They re-signed special teamer CJ Goodwin, who is one of those glue guys, especially on special teams, that you need on your team. And he did a great job last year. Same with Wanye Thomas, who provides you a little depth in the secondary and is a good special teamer. Brock Hoffman might be your starting right guard next year.
He's earned that right the way he performed after Zach Martin went down for sure.
Yeah, right now they have the starting offensive line is Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Brock Hoffman, and Terrence Steele. It's, decent, but you still need some depth on that spot.
For sure.
Tyrus Wheat, who is a good depth piece at the defensive end level. Marquise Bell has earned some playing time after how he performed as an undersized linebacker when they were super dead in depth last year. And then you have your long snapper. And I know you want to talk about Kevontae Turpin. They re-signed Kevontae Turpin this week as well. 3 years, $18 million, a guy out of the UFL who has earned the money that he's going to be paid.
Yeah, this is still like it to think of where this came from, or, Kevontae Turpin in my own mind, and watching Kevontae 2 years ago when he was at OTAs. And I think I've told you the story before where he was running around at one of the wide receiver spots, and like he wasn't running crisp routes. He wasn't running the right routes. And I'm thinking, geez, how is this guy sticking around on this team if all he can do is return kicks? But obviously the Cowboys knew more than we did. They knew that, maybe in some areas he's a project. I think, he still doesn't run the greatest routes, but if you get the ball in his hands, he's tough. He's electric, obviously. But, for as small as he is, he's strong as an ox. He doesn't go down easily. And, his energy, like even when you're talking to him, like everything he does is on joystick level. He talks fast. Everything he does is at a high rate of speed. It's great to be around a guy like that, pretty much a self-made man. Yeah, all these guys have talent, right? They wouldn't be where they're at. This guy has turned himself into an NFL player, a 2-time All-Pro. How can you not like that story? Literally coming from out of nowhere.
Yeah.
As the USFL MVP.
Yeah. Where I'll give Mike McCarthy and Brian Schottenheimer a lot of credit the last 2 years is that they've learned and tried to use him in different ways. You see that he's a great punt returner and a great kick returner. How can we use those abilities that he has as an electric punt and kick returner and get that on our offense, whether it's an end around, whether it's getting it out on screens, a tunnel screen, or a bubble screen, or however you're going to get him the ball? They've done a much better job of integrating him into the offense and trying to use those abilities. And now you see he's going to be doing those things for the Cowboys for the next 3 years. And and he also does a lot of things well, but they don't ask him to do things that he doesn't do well. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like they don't ask him to go be 6'5" and 250 pounds. He's a very small dude. I've interviewed him a couple of times. He comes up to like here on me, and he's not large.
Everybody comes up to there on you.
Fair enough. Fair. No, he is not a large guy, but he is an electric returner. He is liked in the locker room from all all indications, and he's a good piece to a building team.
And he's the highest paid special teamer in NFL history. So well done, Cavante Turpin. It's a great story that's still unfolding.
Not just a special teamer, though. He made his pay as a wide receiver last year, too. I mean, he was getting 2 catches a game, but it seemed like every time he had the ball, he was a threat to go 90 yards.
If nothing else, he creates opportunities for others because he will command attention because of his ability to create separation in a lot of different ways.
And the Cowboys had good special teams last year. They kept together basically their whole special teams unit, keeping Goodwin, keeping Sieg, their long snapper, Brian Anger, their punter. Obviously, Brandon Aubrey is going to get a new deal. Cavante Turpin as well. So, and then you go to the external signings, you see them sign a Javonte Williams, who is a former second rounder. I've watched probably every game of his entire career because I'm a Bronco fan. He's a former Bronco now. And they lose Rico Dowdle at that point. So you're basically exchanging a former second round pick who probably hasn't lived up to his expectation for Rico Dowdle, who only signed a 1-year, $3 million deal. I was really surprised to see the deal that Rico Dowdle got.
I am too, because I would have thought if that's all it takes to bring him back, why wouldn't you bring him back? He was your number one. So I don't know. I think the asking price was 6.5 in that neighborhood, and I'm not exactly sure what the numbers are, but I think it's also a sign that they really want their running backs to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. And obviously, Javonte is going to provide more of that than what they had last year.
Javonte is a better pass catcher than Rico Dowdle was, for sure. And Javonte has been a guy that has wanted to be the number one back, and his coaches have wanted him to be the number one back. He just hasn't been able to take that ball and get running. You know what I mean? He tore his ACL a couple of years ago. It took him a year to get back fully healthy, kind of like it did for Michael Gallup, and it never really clicked. Last year for the Broncos, they wanted him to be the number one back, but he just didn't have those explosive runs, even though the offensive line for the Broncos was pretty good. So we'll see if he can kind of reinvent himself with the Cowboys. But when you see those kinds of signings, you signed a Javonte Williams for almost the same amount of money that Rico Dowdle got. It makes you question what was wrong with Rico. Like, why didn't they want Rico instead? So that was at least that was my first thought.
Yep.
They also get Rob Jones, offensive guard out of, where was he last year? I don't know. I didn't write it down. Rob Jones, the offensive guard. Dolphins. Thank you. He was an undrafted guy. Peyton Turner was with the Saints. Solomon Thomas was with the Jets. He was a former, I think, 4th pick in the draft for the Niners back in 2016. And then Jack Sanborn. Those are the external signings. And then the one we haven't talked about yet is they also made a trade for a corner after losing Jordan Lewis. They trade for Kyer Elam in a 6th-round pick. They give up a 5th and a future 7th. His dad actually played for the Cowboys in 06 and 11 in 2 stints. His uncle also played for the Falcons. So comes from a football family and kind of one of those change of scenery guys that needs a new change of scenery after playing his first few years with the Bills. Now gets a second chance with the Cowboys.
Yeah, super athletic. And, I think only two career picks, but he's going to add a lot of depth. And we were laughing the other day because Jack Green's magical bag of archival video.
Dude,
he had no video of the younger Elam, but he had 6 minutes worth of the dad who last played in 2011.
Of course he did. Jack Green, our photographer here,
Jack
is
Green.
just
thank you, Jack.
So good. He also had Peyton Turner. He had one clip of Peyton Turner. Who we were like, who?
and you're gonna like too. Solomon Thomas is grade A elite. Veteran defensive lineman. He'll be a great rotational guy for them, but Stanford guy, Dallas area guy, and he's really championed suicide prevention. His sister committed suicide, and he has that in common with Dak, who lost his brother, and he's been very, very open about it. And we did a piece with him 4 years ago, and if you get a chance, we got it on foxsanantonio.com. I mean, he's really a sturdy dude, and allowed himself to really open himself up to how he was managing all of this and with his parents and, where do we go from here? And I mean, he's really been a bright light in helping a lot of people, not only prevent suicide, but, helping those that are trying to deal with, a loved one that may have done that. So, I mean, he's a good dude.
Well said. And talking about the guys that are now leaving the team that were not re-signed, one of the big ones, obviously, is DeMarcus Lawrence. We talked about Rico Dowdle already, Chauncey Golston as well, Chuma Edoga going to Jacksonville. The two that really stick out are Jordan Lewis and DeMarcus Lawrence. We talked a little bit about Jordan Lewis on Monday. he deserves to be the highest paid nickel in the league. He's a great dude. Great interview as well. But the one I want to talk to you about now is DeMarcus Lawrence. Obviously, he's given so much to this organization. It almost feels like when DeMarcus Ware, who is obviously higher in the pantheon of great Cowboys, DeMarcus Ware is over DeMarcus Lawrence. But I think of them similarly. When DeMarcus Ware left to go to the Broncos on a 3-year, $30 million deal in 2012, now DeMarcus Lawrence getting 3 years and $40 some odd million to go to the Seahawks. I think of them very similarly with their legacies to the team.
It's strange that you say that because somebody threw out the other day, is he a Ring of Honor guy? And I was like, no. And then it's like, well, maybe. I mean, he's got over 60 career sacks.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't like that guy, right? Who doesn't like talking to him? He's going to tell you straight. Even when he's angry, his sound is great. And he tells it like it is. And he plays like that too. He's all business. And, I kind of made reference to this last night. I mean, when healthy, and obviously he wasn't last year, but there's still a dude in there when healthy. I mean, that season opening game in Cleveland last year, the one I went to, you could not take your eyes off of him. I mean, he was an eyelash short from having like a 4-sack game.
Yeah.
But I mean, he lived on the other side, and there were a lot of guys that got fat in that game, padding stats because he was on the field. There's a lot of dudes still left in him, and the Seahawks paid him accordingly. Good for him. I mean, go and cash in and, see if you can help turn things around up there. I mean, that presence in the locker room, that kind of a dog will be missed. It's just like Jordan Lewis. You can't replace those kind of guys that are leaders and then, really will give you their blood, sweat, and tears and just about everything else when you lace it up on Sunday.
To your point, though, against in that game, I think a lot of people this season kind of padded their stats against the Browns. So
come on now.
That was when they were at least whole.
Yeah, I don't know if that made them any better. I mean, of those 5 moves, the Rico Lawrence, Jordan Lewis, Chuma Edoga, and Chauncey Golston, the 5 major losses that the Cowboys have suffered so far, which one is the most consequential to you? And you can take into account who they've gained as well.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a tie between Lewis and D-Law.
That's such a cop-out.
It is. But, I mean, they're thin. They're thin on the D-line, and they're trying to build that back. So not having a guy that's been there and kind of been the anchor there. I mean, I know you got 11 coming back, and that's a lot. But that to me, it's going to be that's going to be a huge void. I know they had to figure it out last year for all but 4 or 5 games last year without DeMarcus, and Jordan Lewis is the same way. I mean, the thing I learned about Jordan Lewis is that I tried to do a story with him about, when guys get hurt, usually they lose their standing in the locker room, right? If you're not there, you kind of get knocked down a little bit lower. And when he had to go through that foot recovery situation, but it was very clear that even when his foot was mangled up and he was on his way back, there wasn't any ounce of respect in the room or leadership that, he didn't abdicate anything while he was gone, in other words. And so I think they're going to have to figure that out too. He's a very, very another sturdy guy. That's the only way I can process it, because there's just so many layers to him as a ball player, and it's going to be missed. They got good corners, yes, but Jordan Lewis, there's a little more there.
Yeah, I think Jordan Lewis is the most consequential of those 5 guys that are now no longer here, mainly because of the depth. I mean, Trayvon Diggs, we don't know when he's going to be healthy. Theron Bland was out most of last year, is now healthy, but you don't have that third guy. Andrew Booth is, he was drafted before Kyer Elam, and now you're trading for Kyer Elam, who hasn't had the best career with the Bills. You're trying to reinvent this guy and make him into Jordan Lewis when you had Jordan Lewis in your building already. You know what I mean? So I think that you're kind of playing with fire a little bit when it comes to your secondary depth. However, I don't think any of those losses are going to have a profound effect on the team. They were 7-10 with those guys. So I mean, what are they going to do without them? Go 5-12?
Well, that's true, but I mean,
D-Law's
again,
hurt.
It takes it takes a whole roster to win football games, and they were pretty depleted too. So that's something to do with it.
Overall, I like what they've done. That allows them to be the best draft best player available in the draft, which is tends to be what they do anyway. But now I'm really curious to see what they do at number 12, because it could easily be an Ashton Genty. Could easily be a Tet McMillan out of Arizona, or a Luther Burden, or Matthew Golden, bring him back home to Texas and send him up to Dallas, or an Isaiah Bond. It could be one of those skill guys, or they do what the Cowboys have tended to do, and they draft offensive line in the first half. Round.
I mean, it's not like they haven't drafted a running back in the first round before, right? So you could see that happening now, because you damn sure need a running back now. You thought you needed one last year. Well, you really need one now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So. We'll see how they decide to pair it.
Their running back room right now is Javonte Williams, Deuce Vaughn, and Malik Reed. Or why am I forgetting his name?
Because he never saw the field.
Probably, yeah. 3 guys that didn't see the field.
I couldn't tell you what it is.
Yeah,
past Deuce.
Anything on the Cowboys, Bob?
Well, the commenters are calling you Casper.
Yeah, that's good. That's
good.
And
Hanover Fist says,
hey, you put that in my super?
Yeah. And not just because you have a see-through shirt, but because you need to get some sun and play more golf.
I plan to. I'm on vacation until next Wednesday, so I plan to do both of those things this weekend.
Okay, good.
Hanover Fist, who has I've seen him in the comments quite a bit for the podcast. So
hey, thanks for tuning in.
For being
thanks, Hannibal.
Returning
Hannibal Fist or Hand-Over Fist?
Hand-Over.
Hand-Over.
Oh, Hanover, Germany.
Did you call him a cannibal?
He just said,
it's a Hannibal. I thought that's what he said. I'm deaf.
Anyway.
He just said he agreed that Jay Lou was the heart and soul of the secondary.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. He was the only mainstay in the secondary, because you had Trayvon and Deron Bland basically getting injured at separate times.
All right, I'll go with Jordan Lewis over D-Law, only based on availability.
Twist his arm. Arm.
Well, now that I had time to think about it. So.
Last thing I want to get to when it comes to the Cowboys, Cooper Kupp, now a free agent. I would love to see the Cowboys sign a free agent wide receiver, whether it's Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, probably not Deontay. He seemed to have some issues in the last couple of years. And then Tyler Lockett. I would love to see them sign one of those veteran guys and bring them in next to CD and next to Jalen Tolbert.
I'm out on Cooper Kupp, man. Great career. Love the player, but the last 3 years, what is he, 32, 33 years old?
He's a Triple Crown winner, man.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. You know who was in on him, it sounds like? Green Bay. That's like, okay.
Green Bay isn't in on any receivers that they don't draft in the second round.
Oh,
so,
jeez, dude. Yeah.
I would love to see them sign. Keenan Allen's not a bad option, though, as long as he needs to.
I mean, if you're going to go the veteran route, I mean, I don't know what Diggs' knee situation is going to be like by the time the season rolls around, but man, he sure was good for Houston, and it sure looked like there was still a hell of a lot of gas left in the tank. And full disclosure, I did not see many Seahawks games last year, so I don't know what Ty Lockett's got left in the tank, but I sure enjoyed watching him kind of sneaky, and his career has been fantastic.
Hey, toe tap artist, Tyler Lockett, man.
Yeah.
He's made a lot of big catches in his
yes,
career.
He has.
So let's talk about the Texans here for a few minutes. So no team has been more active, it seems like, than the Houston Texans, especially when it comes to the trade market. Huge trades for Christian Kirk, who they got pretty cheap because of his salary. Christian Kirk now gets to replace Stephon Diggs, who is no longer on the roster. Trading away Laramie Tunsil is the one that grabs all the headlines, trading him to the Commanders, not getting a huge haul back when you gave up a huge haul to get him a few years ago, plus a giant bag of cash to Laramie Tunsil a few years ago. You trade for CJ Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles, and you trade for today offensive guard Ed Ingram from the Vikings. The Vikings have obviously been remaking their offensive line. I just got a notification that they're going to be releasing Tyler Bradbury, their center, if they're not able to find a trade partner. So when you look at all those deals, I think Laramie Tunsil gains the most headlines, and
rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean it's a heck of a deal for him. I mean, it's
a heck of a deal for him, and it's a heck of a deal for the Texans to get rid of that contract. I mean, we watched the Texans last year. Where did they have problems on the offensive line? I'm not saying that Laramie Tunsil hasn't earned every nickel that he's ever made, but if you can get that contract off the books And they did, and it looks like they're nuking their entire offensive line.
Well, I mean, for good reason, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
the Texans' offensive line was 22nd in pass block win rate last year, 31st, next to last in run block win rate last year. And you basically would just had Joe Mixon running into a brick wall every time
And
he
still
got the ball.
his.
And then you had CJ Stroud, who's been sacked 90 times in the last 2 years. Like, you're going to have another David Carr situation on your hands if you don't protect him. Like, he got sacked 52 times last year. Some of them are his fault, not all of them. 52 times is a lot for a playoff team and a quarterback who you're trying to develop.
Yeah, the way I understand it is they want the offense to have a mentality that D'Amico has instilled in the defense. They want dogs at every position, and they want guys that are going to play like every snap is their last. They want to punish you up front on the offensive line like they're trying to do on the defensive side. So with that in mind, they're going to be going after guys with that kind of mentality. May not be the highest skill guys, but they're going to be the nastiest dogs in the room.
Well, it reminds me of that Greg Popovich quote that everyone plays. We need some nasty. That's what they want up front, and they haven't done that in the last 2 years, even though they came on strong 2 years ago. But their offensive line has been a huge, huge issue, and they're doing, it seems like, everything possible, looking behind every door to fix that issue.
They are. I mean, and kudos to them. I mean, they're probably just as cap strapped as the Cowboys were going in, and they're really sneaky how they go about it. They subtle moves here, subtle moves there, and then you look at the totality of it all at the end, and more often than not, they've hit more than they've whiffed.
Yeah, absolutely. The receiver's another issue for them. They've tried to make up for that in the free agent period, as well. Mainly because we don't know if Tank Dell is ever going to play again. Like, his knee was destroyed in that game on Christmas against the Chiefs. He just had another surgery recently on his knee. We don't know if he'll ever play again. And if he does come back and play, we don't know what level he will be at when he comes back and plays, which is putting it aside is just a horrible, horrible thing for such a young player who was developing into a star on that team with CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I mean, really a tough blow for him and the team as well, obviously, and we hope he can get better. But you're right. I mean, I think it would be a long shot at this point to say that you could count on him this year. And I don't think that they can have that mindset going into the draft or even as we explore free agency here. So it'll be curious to see if they go out and try to get a Ty Lockett or somebody like that.
Well, they've signed Braxton Berrios so far, who, or how some people know Alex Earl's girlfriend or boyfriend. I would guarantee that nobody in this room knows who Alex Earl is, but I do, only because I'm married to Jordan and she knows who Alex Earl is. Anyway.
Is he nice?
She
okay.
What does she do?
An influencer and is probably makes more money than Braxton Berrios does. She's super hot too, so that's why everyone knows her.
Alex
Not the old guys in the room.
Yeah. She's Googling her. Okay. Anyway, so they've signed Braxton Berrios and Justin Watson so far this year as well.
Bob. We're over here, Bob.
Is that the Huck 2 girl?
No. That's Haley Welch.
Is that still a thing?
Huck Twa. We're going off the rails here anyway. Anyway, so they have Nico Collins now. They have Christian Kirk. They have Justin Watson. They have Braxton Berrios. They probably will draft somebody to go along with. But you need this offense. It seemed like last year they were doing so well for about 8 games, and then it just came crashing down to earth. And all of the flaws that they had on their offense showed up in the last 9 games of the season and in the playoffs. So it's like they're trying to remake this entire team in one offseason. I don't know if they're going to be able to accomplish it.
Well, I mean, they're in a pretty good place, though, nonetheless. I mean, again, your offense will struggle when you have as talented as receivers as they had go down, 2 of them.
Yeah.
And so, now there's more pressure on the tight end. There's more pressure on 12. 12's pretty damn good, even without the other 2 guys on the field, as he proved. But, if you can find maybe one other dude to go along with him, I think that's going to loosen everything up.
I do respect what the Texans are trying to do, though, capitalizing on the CJ Stroud rookie contract window. You're seeing the Commanders do that now with Jaden Daniels. You're seeing the Broncos do that now as they sign Dre Greenlaw and Havalua Hafanga and Evan Ingram in Denver. You're seeing teams that have good rookie or young quarterbacks try and capitalize while they have the cap space and while they're not paying them $60 million a year, so they can try and win a Super Bowl early and then pay the quarterback. we'll see if it works. It's worked before. It worked with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. It's worked for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. We'll see if it works this time with other teams, but I like that they're at least trying to go for it.
Everything the Chiefs have done has worked lately.
Fair enough, except for getting their receivers to stop committing crimes.
Whoa!
What?
Nothing.
Xavier Worthy just got arrested the other day, didn't he?
Allegedly, he was not charged with anything. So,
Whatever.
yeah.
I mean, Rasheed Rice is still going through the legal process. Like their whole receiving corps seems like.
Well, didn't Worthy just get arrested for something?
Yeah.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, but they
Thanks
didn't
for listening.
He was not charged. So let's make that abundantly clear. I
Yeah.
don't want to hear from Xavier's attorneys.
I'm not convicting him. I'm just saying.
No
That-
charges, right?
Huh?
No charges.
No charges.
No charges. Go Chargers. Go. What? The old Arnold Schwarzenegger line when he introduced it. Anyway. All right. Well, that's all we got for today.
That's all we have?
Before I get sued.
That's it?
That's it.
That's all there is?
That's all we got.
There ain't no more?
Nothing.
Wow. I can go find my parka now and see if I can thaw.
Yeah, I'm gonna go put on. I guess I need to wear a different shirt next time. So, anyway, that's all we got for you on the Sneakers Cleats podcast today. Remember, download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Zach, Chuck, and Don will be back on Monday. I will see you next Thursday.
Where are you going?
I'm going back home, Palm Desert, Palm Springs area. See my family for this weekend. So
Oh, have fun.
it's gonna be gorgeous too. It's 65 and sunny. So looking forward to it. Just like this room.
It's 62 and well lit.
We're up to 65.
Obviously, it's a
62 and
see-through
well
shirt.
lit in this room. Anyway,
Yes.
we'll see you next week.